there, and welcome to Grimwit with Dimwits. I'm Blondie.
And I'm T.
And this is our month of double A, which stands for Asinine, Absurd, Airheaded April. It is a month of ridiculousness as far as true crime and criminals go.
And there's so much of that to be found.
Speaking of so much to be found, I found a few. Actually, I don't even want to say a few. I found multiple examples of stupidity when it comes to crime. Did you hear about the 29-year-old man who watched television and got this idea to take his credit card and break into his neighbors?
No, I didn't hear about that.
It must have been the middle of the night. He goes in to break in using his credit card to get in. His neighbor wakes up and startles him. And as he's trying to run away, his credit card breaks and all of his information is left in the door. So the man calls the police and tells them, hey, this is who it is. And so they go and find him and they go into his house, and sitting on the kitchen table is the other half of the credit card.
There you go. That's what you get.
Not too right. And the guy that was he was in Melbourne, I think, and he was breaking into a bakery and locked himself into the storage room. They had the whole thing on CCTV. When they got there, they found him climbing up to try and escape. It was hysterical. And I think my favorite of them all is this drunk driver who's driving down the street, and he decides to call the police on a driver that is driving the wrong way on the highway. He called the police on himself.
What?
He was driving the wrong way. And I guess because the cars were coming at him, he's going, everybody's driving the wrong way. So he calls police to say, hey, people are driving the wrong way. And
they show up and see him.
They see him. He was driving the wrong way. People aren't too bright sometimes.
Every time I hear people driving the wrong way, I have to think of that scene in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with John Candy and, what's his name?
I can picture him. I'm trying to think. Steve Martin.
And Steve Martin, yeah.
Yeah.
I love Steve Martin. Why did I forget his name? Yeah, it is so funny. That scene is one of my favorite ones. It's the best.
You know what? I just saw a blip of it the other day. I don't think I've ever really sat through the entire thing.
Oh, you have to. You have to sit through the entire thing because there are so many great lines in that movie.
What I saw was funny. And John Candy is hysterical in this. You know, he's just Mr. Oblivious. From what I saw, he was Mr. Oblivious.
And he just talks Steve Martin into everything. And Steve Martin's sitting there going like, yeah, that makes sense when it doesn't.
Hey, isn't that us?
Yeah. Okay. And I get to be Steve Martin in this one.
That's okay. I'm a little bloated. I feel a little John Candy-ish right now. Speaking of ridiculousness.
Yeah, speaking of ridiculousness, I have a story that's going to line up perfectly for this month.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Well, do share.
That sounds like one word. Do share.
Do share. It's French.
There you go. She's fancy.
That's right. Got my crown on today.
So I wonder how many women have fantasized about having a hot guy conveniently tucked away somewhere in their home to be used and abused, wink, wink, whenever the mood strikes. Right? I could totally get on board with that. Just kidding, babe. Don't get excited.
I'm telling.
Right now, he's going to start checking my closet, but all he's going to find are my impulse purchases that I need to fill the void of not having a hot guy in my closet. You think he'd let me switch it up?
Honestly, I think that if it saved him money, he probably will. Plus the perk of, having that extra person to get the blood flowing, I should say. And you wouldn't have to go to the gym. That's another money saver. He might be on board.
He might totally be on board. I'll be like, look at us saving money and getting fit.
It's all for you, babe.
And there you go. Sacrifices I make.
You're a giver.
I am. Well, we're going to talk about a couple of rock star gals who fearlessly did exactly that and kept their lovers tucked away in their homes.
Wait, what?
Yes, ma'am.
I thought we were playing. Okay.
Nope. Let's let the grim begin. Walburga Oesterreich Koschel. That's right. I pronounce that like a German native. Bam.
Dang.
I know, right? Was at the center of one of the most sensational love affairs that the city of Los Angeles ever encountered. Newspapers described her as a naughty vamp. I love that. I want to be a naughty vamp.
Ooh, a little Zsa Zsa there.
German-born in 1880, she was nicknamed Dolly and also the Queen of Los Angeles. So how do you get that title? I was born in Los Angeles and she wasn't even born there. So yeah, my feathers are a little bit ruffled.
Maybe her reputation preceded her.
Yeah, she definitely had some nerve. I'll give her that. I may have to keep 2 men in my closet to dethrone her. Yeah.
Your closet is big enough. I could see it.
Right. I could have 2 in there and they wouldn't even know about each other.
So true.
Dolly was an American housewife married to wealthy textile manufacturer named Fred William Oesterreich, born December 8, 1877. She gained notoriety for the shooting death of her husband committed by her lover, Otto Sonnenhuber, who she had a secret affair with for over a decade while keeping him hidden in the attic of her home.
A decade? I mean, talk about oblivious, this man, Fred. Doesn't the lover have to, I don't know, go to the restroom, get some food, work?
Apparently not. And I didn't think about those midnight potty needs. That's pretty disgusting.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Dolly grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, among a community of fellow German immigrants. When she was 12 years old, Dolly got a job at the textile mill that another immigrant, Fred Oesterreich, owned and had made him very wealthy, and Fred would often hire fellow German immigrants to work in his factories. Dolly was very young, attractive, and charismatic, making lots of friends at the factory. Her outgoing nature quickly attracted Fred's attention, and the two married when she was only 17 years old and Fred was 20. He's pretty young for being so wealthy. He sounds like a catch.
Forgive me. Yes, wealthy, but not very bright.
You might be right about that. As the boss's wife, Dolly remained popular with the factory workers, and she even served as a liaison, peacefully resolving labor disputes between workers and the more distant, hard-nosed, hard-drinking, and unlikable Fred. Okay, never mind. He's not a catch at all.
I take it back. I changed my thought. It's not that he's not bright. He may be impaired, since the man seems to like a cocktail or 10.
Don't you like a cocktail or 10? Oh, sorry.
Yes, I do like a cocktail. And if I get to 10, I wouldn't be able to count.
But you can definitely hold your liquor. I'll give you that.
Years of practice.
Yep. But Dolly was apparently not content in her home life. There were many rumors about multiple affairs where she would invite lovers into her home during the day while Fred worked. Her sexual appetite included a long line of men, with one who would pay with his life.
Wow. She's ambitious.
Dolly was becoming more bold because one day in 1913, when she was 33 years old, she noticed Otto Sonnenhuber, a 17-year-old sewing machine repairman who worked at the factory. She asked her husband to send him over to fix her sewing machine, and then a very long and intense affair began after she greeted him in a silk robe, stockings, heavy perfume, and nothing else. As little Richard would say, "Good golly, Miss Dolly, you sure like to ball." You're welcome. Otto came to her home regularly, but in order to get him in and out without the neighbors becoming suspicious, Dolly told them that Otto was her vagabond half-brother. I wonder why she chose to call him a vagabond. Maybe it was to make it seem as though he was completely undesirable. But if it's your brother, whether it's half, quarter, or a teaspoon, isn't that implied?
Exactly.
So that was weird. With Otto's comings and goings so often, Dolly decided it would be easier for her if she just moved him into the attic, which was accessible through a panel in the ceiling of her bedroom closet. So her lover ended up living directly over the bed that Fred and Dolly shared. That is so creepy. He must have heard everything.
And how did Fred not hear noises coming from the ceiling? That's what I want to know. Honestly, I keep thinking about the potty break at midnight? What does he do? Water the begonias out the attic window? I mean, where'd he go? Gross.
Yeah, I'd love to know. That's more interesting than anything else. I want to know.
What was the protocol?
Exactly. Otto was given a cot, food, a lamp, books, and some writing materials to keep him busy in the evening. During the day, he was allowed to come out to make love to her, do housework, and make bathtub gin. Wow, he cleans the house and takes care of her hooch and cooch? I'm jealous.
Can we say cooch?
I just did.
Okay.
But at night, Otto, the triple threat, would live in total silence, reading and writing science fiction stories, and then Dolly would mail them to potential publishers for him. So he's John Holmes by day and Anne Frank by night? I looked up Mr. Holmes, and did you know he used many nicknames, but one of them was Wadzilla? I'm sorry, but that's funny.
Okay. That honestly does not make sense to me. Maybe Dongzilla or Schlongzilla, but Wad?
Hello, put your stinking thinking cap on.
Okay, but in my mind, I'm thinking wad, like a spit wad, where it's all compressed.
Oh, it's a spit wad.
Okay, you're just gross.
You're the one making me explain it way too much. I don't know anything about him. I thought that was his name, but I had to look him up. So I don't know anything about him. Never seen him. None of that.
Anyway.
Anywho. Otto would later describe himself as Dolly's sex slave, aka Watto.
Now you're giving out names.
Otto? Watto? Sounds about right. Claiming they made love up to 8 times a day while Fred remained blissfully unaware of his wife's lover living in the house.
Well, of course, he'd say that 8 times, but wouldn't that make him Wobblezilla?
I don't know about him, but it would definitely make her Wobblezilla. Fred and Dolly decided to move to Los Angeles in 1918, but Dolly only agreed to the move if she was able to choose their new home. So Fred agreed, and Dolly made sure to pick a house with an attic, which was pretty rare in Los Angeles. The house they bought sat above Sunset Boulevard, and Dolly arranged for Otto to move ahead of her and her husband so he could get settled into the attic before they arrived. I'm sure that wasn't too difficult with his little cot, his lamp, pens, and food rations, but I'm still not understanding why anybody would agree to be a flower in the attic just for sex.
But at 17, he probably thought he scored. I mean, he didn't have to work and he could write and have sex all day.
At 17, maybe, but now he's like 22. He's too grown for that.
Yeah, but a male 22 maturity level, he still probably thought he scored.
Living in an attic, he probably still thought he was 17. Who knows
True.
if he even had a calendar at that point. On August 22nd, 1922, while Otto was quietly confined in his attic, he overheard a loud argument between Dolly and her husband. Otto thought Dolly might be in danger, so he came down, grabbed 2 .25 caliber pistols from the bedroom bureau, and went after Fred. When Fred saw and recognized him, he flew into a rage. During the fight, Fred was shot 3 times and died. Can you imagine you're just having an argument and all of a sudden your ex-sewing machine repairman, who's like 10 years late to work by now, pops up in your house with not 1 but 2 guns and shoots you?
That would be a little disconcerting.
Yeah, he's probably like, what the heck is going on?
Where did you come from?
Exactly.
And why are you coming out my closet?
With guns.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you so pale? The 2 lovers quickly agreed to stage a botched burglary scene. Dolly gave Otto all the cash she had and Fred's diamond watch. Otto then locked Dolly in a closet and retreated to his hideaway in the attic with the watch, cash, and pistols he used to kill Fred. You know, at this point, Dolly is completely innocent of this unexpected murder, so I wonder why she immediately went along with covering it up.
She didn't want to lose her little boy toy.
Maybe. She got a lot going on, though, as you'll come to find out. After
Well,
hearing gunshots, neighbors called the police. Police arrived and found Fred shot and killed and Dolly locked in the closet. The scene looked suspicious, but police couldn't figure out how Dolly could have locked herself in the closet if she had been involved. The police wrapped up the investigation, completely unaware of Otto hiding in the attic the entire time.
what? That is very reckless of the police to not investigate the entire house, especially if they thought it looked suspicious.
I know, right? And what if her home really had been broken into and they were like hiding up there? It makes me curious if police are required to go into attics and basements nowadays. They should, right?
They should have then.
Yeah, doesn't make sense. They actually left her in a bad position.
Exactly.
After the murder, Otto continued to live in the attic for another 8 years. The only extra item he was now allowed was a typewriter because nobody would be able to hear him typing away. So why in the heck is he still living in the attic? She has no husband in the house and still makes him live up there and he's cool with it? That's the weirdest part of this story so far.
Okay, I would agree with that. At this point, he's like, what, 30? Why does he still feel like he has to live in the attic? I mean, like he's trapped up there, or he's not trapped. What is the word I'm looking for? He's forced to live there?
Yeah, and there's no husband now. Why can't he come out and they become a couple? But now that she's single and ready to mingle, Dolly was involved with more men, including her attorney, Herman Shapiro, who she hired in 1930 after being suspected of Fred's murder. Dolly gave her new boyfriend, Herman, her dead husband's diamond watch that she had reported stolen by the burglars who supposedly murdered her husband. This made Herman very suspicious of her, and when he asked her about it, she told him that she had found the watch in her front yard. The burglars must have dropped it during their getaway, so it sounds to me like they literally lost track of time.
Hello, dad joke makes an appearance.
You knew it wouldn't be too long.
It was coming. And I will give it to Dolly. She was pretty quick on her feet, coming up with that excuse on the fly.
Yeah, she really was. Roy Klum, another one of Dolly's lovers, found out about her affair with Herman and in a jealous rage decided to go to the police and let them know that Dolly had given him a pistol right after the murder and asked him to throw it in the La Brea tar pits, which he did. So this is like 8 years after the murder. So this guy has been around for a minute too, if he was dumping guns for her way back then.
Right? And why can't she take it?
I don't know. Well, why should she? She's got a million men waiting to do things for her.
And this is probably why he's still in the attic, because she doesn't want them to know about him and vice versa.
Well, and she's conveniently keeping him up there so that neither one of them gets into trouble, and probably told him some story about why he needs to stay up there. Who knows? It's crazy.
Wow.
Then a neighbor came forth and informed the police that Dolly had also given him a pistol after the murder, asking him to dispose of it. She claimed that she needed to get rid of it because it was the same model as the gun that was used to kill her husband, and she, quote, didn't want to get into trouble, end quote. So the way too naive neighbor buried the pistol under a rose bush in his garden. This guy just happens to live near her. Why is he sticking his neck out like that? This lady has some kind of superpower.
Now we see why she's the queen of Los Angeles.
You're right. I concede. Bow to the queen. Dang it. Does this mean I don't get to have 2 men in my closet now?
No, you might as well just let that one go.
Dang it. So close. Police were able to recover both of the pistols, and although they were badly decayed, both weapons were identified as the same caliber used in the murder of Fred Oesterreich.
I find that interesting that they can recover something from the La Brea tar pits.
I thought that was super interesting, too.
Huh.
I wonder what type of tools they have for that, because it's black and thick, and I don't even get it. It's like a solid mass. It's not like water. It's not solid, but you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean. That's why I'm kind of going, how are they able to find it?
Interesting. And can you imagine how many things have been thrown into the La Brea tar pits?
How many other crimes they're solving as they're looking for the one gun?
Exactly. I wonder if they have to search it like every year or something just to get the stuff out of there, whatever the stuff might be.
Okay, well, let's just go to extremes now.
I'm just saying, it's perfect if you want to hide something.
A little spring cleaning at the La Brea tar pits.
Dolly was then arrested for suspicion of murder. While in jail, she admitted to Herman, her boyfriend/attorney, that her vagabond half-brother was still living in the attic of her home, and she asked him to check on him. So Herman went to the house and knocked on the attic trap door. He was cordially greeted by a pale and very thin Otto, who proceeded to explain his bizarre relationship with Dolly and eventually confessed to the murder of Fred. You know, it sounds like at this point he might have been food deprived and delirious, or maybe he was still trying to get her out of jail by admitting his guilt.
I'm surprised that Otto didn't greet him in a silky robe, stockings, and clothing, and nothing else. Waiting for Dolly.
Exactly. Otto was immediately arrested and tried for manslaughter. The extremely weird circumstances of the case hit the press, and Otto is quickly dubbed the Batman. Side note here, this is a few years prior to the comic superhero character Batman being introduced in 1939. It makes me wonder if this had anything to do with naming the character.
Interesting thought.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh, it's a little interesting little thing.
Tidbit.
Dolly's trial lasted 8 years and ended in a mistrial. She was never retried on charges of conspiracy to commit murder. But Otto, her sex slave, aka Watto, was convicted of manslaughter, but because the statute of limitations had expired, he was released. Otto changed his name to Walter Klein. So much for anonymity.
Sure it wasn't Bruce Wayne?
And he moved to Gotham City? Maybe. But no, he moved to Canada, where he married another woman, then eventually came back to Los Angeles and lived the remainder of his life in obscurity in an attic. Just kidding. Dolly remained in Los Angeles until her death on April 8th, 1961, at the age of 80. And by the way, we're releasing this on April 8th in honor of Dolly.
Aww.
Dolly and Otto's story inspired the feature film, The Bliss of Mrs. Blossom. I love that name for some reason. It's just tickling my fancy. As well as 2 made-for-TV movies, 1995's The Man in the Attic with Neil Patrick Harris, and in 2018, Lover in the Attic with Molly Burnett. Dolly was also the subject of a 2017 episode of the series A Crime to Remember.
Wow, Dolly did make the rounds, didn't she?
Yes, she did. She had it going on. You got to give it to her. And she really didn't kill her husband. She didn't plan it or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It just happened. So can't be mad at her.
Nope. R.I.P. Dolly.
So you think that this is so freaking weird that it's definitely a one and done event, right?
Right.
But nope, you would be wrong.
Ooh, a twofer.
Yes, ma'am. In April 2005, almost 16 hours after Martha Freeman's husband, Jeffrey Freeman, was viciously beaten and strangled to death in their upscale South Nashville home, she finally decided to contact police to report his death.
She was a Southern woman. She was cleaning up for guests.
Yeah, that's a big question right there. Maybe she was. Martha claimed that her lover, a Mexican illegal immigrant by the name of Rafael de Jesus Rocha Perez, killed her husband after her husband had shockingly discovered Perez living in the couple's closet. But prosecutors dispute Martha Freeman's version of the events that led to her husband's killing.
Okay, these women definitely have some serious lady bullocks.
I know. Part of me is repulsed and the other part is screaming, girl power.
Oh, come on. You're not that repulsed.
No, I'm really not. Martha Freeman frantically went to a neighbor's house and asked them to call 911.
Frantically, after 16 hours.
I'm sure that was part of the show. When police responded, they found the body of 44-year-old Jeffrey Freeman, partially stuffed into a sleeping bag, lying face down with a black trash bag wrapped around his face. He had sustained multiple blunt force trauma injuries to his head, and ligature marks were found on his neck. The home appeared to be undisturbed, police said, with one notable exception. Several black garbage bags were discovered containing wet bath mats, towels, and a pillowcase with bloodstains and wads of torn telephone cord. They also found a towel with both of their DNA, indicating that they had recently had sex on the towel. Police surmised that maybe that was what they were doing when her husband walked in, or maybe it was to celebrate the killing. I was thinking that maybe he just cleaned himself up with a towel, but hey, what do I know?
See, I said she was cleaning up for guests.
During the crime scene investigation, Metro Nashville police detectives found the closet that Martha claims her lover lived in for a few weeks before her husband's death. The 2x8 storage space contained a foam pad, pillows, blankets, 3 loaves of bread, a Nintendo Game Boy, a radio, and several adult magazines. Investigators also found lingerie and nude pictures of Martha. Doesn't that sound like the perfect man cave?
Exactly. I'm saying Nintendo Game Boy? Really? Okay.
Now, in 16 hours, this lady didn't think to remove those pictures of her. I mean, I think Martha was some kind of freaky and wanted the cops to accidentally find them now that she needed a new boy toy.
Probably. She forgot about him. She was too busy celebrating on the towel.
Right. Martha Freeman appeared to be forthcoming with authorities about her strange relationship with Perez, whom she referred to as Christian. This guy already had a bajillion names. Why is she giving him another?
He has like 4 names.
I know.
She can't use one of those? I mean,
apparently not. She confessed to his role in her husband's death that evening. So initially, only Perez was charged with Jeffrey's murder, and Martha was called as an eyewitness at Perez's preliminary hearing, providing detailed information about the night her husband was murdered. Martha testified that she met Perez at a July 4th celebration in 2004, when her marriage was rocky. The couple went to a hotel in downtown Nashville with 2 of Perez's friends, and Martha admitted to having a bomb chicka bow wow with the 3 men. Dang, girl.
Here we go. Another queen. Queen of Nashville.
She earned it. I'll give her that one. I'm not trying to take that crown. From there, the couple continued to have an on and off relationship with the aid of an English-Spanish translator. Then Perez was moved into Martha's closet in March of 2005.
So does a translator make it a threesome?
I don't think it was a person. I'm guessing it was a book or a phone. Who knows?
Oh, okay. I automatically went person.
I was going to say, I like where your head's at. On the night of April 10th, 2005, Martha claims that she and Perez were asleep in one of the bedrooms of her home. Jeffrey, her husband, came in and caught Perez asleep with his wife and told him to leave. According to Martha, her husband of 10 years left the house at this point to walk the dogs. You know, that makes no sense. What husband would just leave the guy he caught boinking his wife at his house and then take a walk?
Wow. Yeah, that's a stretch, I think.
Yeah, that seriously makes no sense. So when he returned, Perez grabbed Jeffrey, who was a large man at 230 pounds, and forced him into the bathroom at gunpoint while Martha waited outside. How convenient.
Exactly.
At the hearing, quote, I heard water running and a lot of thumping and noise. I was absolutely terrified of what was going on. And also, if he could have done this to my husband, I'm not sure what he was going to do to me. End quote. Martha testified. You're already outside, Martha. Skip, walk, or run away. It's that easy.
Or go call the police.
Something.
Right? And he forced him into the bathroom at gunpoint and then proceeded to beat him. That's a lot of work if you have a gun.
Agreed. Makes no sense. When asked why she didn't immediately call the police, Martha admitted that she, quote, didn't have an answer, end quote, and attributed that poor decision to the medication she was taking for bipolar disorder. Yeah, right.
Or she wanted to get one more Yahoo in before he went to jail.
Now that makes more sense. Probably a couple more Yahoos in. A few more dirty towels.
Wow. Okay.
During the 16 hours before she notified 911, Martha said she went to Walgreens to pick up a prescription for antidepressants and then walked her dog twice. She said she also called her in-laws and told them their son would not be able to talk to them with his usual daily phone call because he was sick. She also called into Jeffrey's work with the same excuse. Then finally around 4 p.m. the next day, she went to her neighbors and asked them to call the police because her husband had been killed.
It sounds like she was extremely traumatized by the whole incident to run all these errands and make all these phone calls. I mean, it was a full day for her.
It was, but, she only became frantic when she went to the neighbors.
Oh, wow, Martha, come on.
Martha, Martha, Martha. While testifying, you just got it. Oh my God, you're so late to the game. While testifying, Martha's testimony in the preliminary hearing came to an abrupt halt when the judge pretty much said that he didn't believe her. Quote, I've got a problem with allowing this to go any further without allowing her some representation because I can see her being charged in this case. End quote. Judge Casey Moreland told lawyers, quote, this is so bizarre, it is hard to believe. End quote. It's great that the judge recognized that through her eyewitness testimony, she was definitely incriminating herself. Go, Casey.
It almost could take a child to figure that out, but good for him.
You're right. 40-year-old Martha and 36-year-old Perez, who had been found hiding in the rafters at a house near the Freeman's home the night of the murder, were each charged with first-degree murder in Jeffrey's violent bludgeoning and strangulation. In August 2005, a grand jury indicted Martha, but she remained free on $75,000 bail while her former lover remained in custody. They both face life in prison if convicted, even though Martha claims that she's only guilty of adultery and of waiting to call the police.
Only,
that's all. In 2006, an investigator told the Nashville Daily newspaper that he believed the crime scene had been staged, including the closet lover scenario. That would be so interesting if she came up with this after learning about Dolly and Otto's story. I mean, who knows?
That's a good person to follow if you're trying to map this out.
Dolly was smart, though, and she wasn't guilty.
True.
Perez's attorney, Peter Strians, also insists that Perez is innocent and that Martha is the real murderer, and she may have set the whole thing up for Perez to take the fall. Quote, Perez has always maintained his innocence, and no disrespect to Mrs. Freeman, but her credibility, her reliability, and her mental stability will seriously be in question at the trial of this case, Attorney Strians told the Tennessean newspaper.
Plus her ability to lie. She's not very good at it. Too many details.
Way too many details, and not well put together either.
He went out and walked the dog, please.
And she walked the dog the next day twice. What's up with why is the dog got to be included in this? Poor dog.
Right.
He's everybody's alibi.
Dog's going, hey, I don't got to go, people. Quit walking me.
I just want to stay home. Can I just stay home next to Bloody Daddy? Come on.
Oh, you're so wrong. You are so wrong.
Following the trial, it took less than 2 hours for Martha Freeman and her lover, Rafael de Jesus Rocha Perez, to be found guilty and sentenced to life in prison on September 28, 2006. Martha cried and held her hands to her face, while Perez showed no emotion whatsoever.
Okay, just on a side note, from now on, you're going to say all the names in the stories I tell too.
I know, I was trying not to get all rolling of my R's. Rafael.
And I butcher them. Rafael.
So who would have thought that the monster in the closet can be the devil you actually put there yourself? Sweet dreams, all.
Wow. Some pretty incredible stories.
Really, really absurd.
Very ridiculous.
So ballsy. These girls, these women, I should say, so ballsy.
And I can't believe these guys are going for it. I think that's the other side of the coin.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, both stories, incredible.
Incredible. Well, thank you for sharing the stories. They were very good.
You're welcome.
And thank you for listening. And don't forget to take care and remember to let your grimaginations run wild.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
We just want to thank you all for sharing your time with us. And if you'd like to send in your creepy little grim bits, we would love to hear your personal stories, interests, and suggestions. Please email them to grimwitwithdimwits@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at grimwitwithdimwits, Twitter at grimwitwithdimwits, and Facebook, Grimwit with Dimwits. Join us every Monday for new episodes and feel free to share us with your grim-loving friends.
We would really appreciate if you would take a minute to rate and review. 5-star ratings go a long way and would really help us out. Until then, we would love it if you'd come back next week to delve with us into the strange and unusual things we just can't wrap our skulls around.